everybody to the meeting today for the Town of North Topsail Beach. It's our regular monthly Board of Aldermen meeting. Today is Wednesday, December 7th. And before I turn it over to Mr. Fontana, I wanted to welcome our interim town clerk, Nancy Avery. Thank you so much for helping us out today. And we will work together as a board to make sure that you know who's making the motions and stuff today to make your life a little bit easier. Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem said that going through the video is not the easiest thing. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Fontana.
Bless this town.
Let's stand. We're all still.
Bless this town, and may it remain a beautiful and friendly place to live. We pray that the board makes fair and informed decisions this morning. We also pray that our police officers, firefighters, and members of our armed services here and around the world remain safe as they risk so much for our security. We also pray for our town, that our town be spared the ravages of hurricanes and other natural disasters, and that everyone associated with the town remain safe and secure. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to turn this over to Tom Leonard for a second, please.
I'd like to offer a moment of
Okay, so the next item is the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so just for the record, it was Mayor Pro Tem Benson who made the motion to approve the agenda and seconded by Alderman Leonard. And then we're going to move on to the manager's report.
First item is beach projects. Phase 5, ST Wooten resumed the Phase 5 project. The truck haul was scheduled on November 16th. They're again using the Gray Street access. They've been working Monday through Friday, and as of December 6th, which was yesterday, they placed approximately 20,000 cubic yards of sand. So that's what's been placed and surveyed as of yesterday. The project will continue until April 30th, 2023. Any remaining work will be completed in November and December of 2023. The project in total consists of hauling and placing approximately 636,000 cubic yards of sand along 18,500 feet of shoreline from the Surf City border to around 3686 Island Drive. We also used the town's newly acquired police department drone to fly the project area and posted a video on the project page of the town's website. So I would just encourage anyone for this project as well as any other projects that we have going on and continue to have to feel free to go to that page anytime on our website. It's on the front page down at the bottom, projects. All updates will be posted there on a timely basis. We also have the drone video footage posted there too for everyone to see. The Channel to Jacksonville project, of course, this is an Army Corps of Engineers project. We did have a site meeting in November as scheduled to discuss the Channel to Jacksonville dredge disposal area along North Topsail Beach. The Army Corps has awarded a contract to Cottrell Contracting, which is going to place approximately 173,000 cubic yards of sand that will be placed along the inlet area. We received an update last week indicating that the contractor at this point in time is looking at running the pipeline offshore, about 5 foot offshore around at the end of the island in order to pump within the area required in the contract. Yesterday, I was able to confirm a tentative schedule. I just would like to reiterate tentative because it is subject to change. With their contractor, but they do plan right now at this point to mobilize between December 27th and January 6th and tentative dredging for beach placement will be January 6th through January 20th. I also asked them about upcoming potential impacts, if anything that needed to be relayed to the public and residents in that area at this point. They responded that there was nothing at this time other than the tentative schedules, and that they would provide project updates that may have any impacts with as much advance notice as possible. So that's the latest feedback I got on the Army Corps project. Phase 4 Coastal Storm Damage Mitigation Fund Grant. As you're aware, we passed a resolution at the last board meeting for the committing the town for the contract. We received the contract last Thursday, which I provided to Attorney Eads for review. So we're going to waiting to determine, he's going to let us know today if we need to place this on a future agenda for approval, or with what we included as number 10 in the resolution at the last meeting to try to incorporate anything that they sent our way, if that'll cover us. So he's going to advise us of that today. Hurricane Ian response. Under the current declaration, Cat B emergency protective measures are available for FEMA reimbursement. We did have a recovery scoping meeting with FEMA on November 23rd to complete our project worksheets for Cat B. We ended up submitting everything. It was just under $50,000. Total was around $49,076 was actually the specific total. I reported at the last meeting that FEMA was still gathering damage information throughout the state to determine if we were going to get a full disaster declaration. And that, of course, if we were to receive that, that would allow us to submit for Cat G. It does not sound like FEMA is going to mitigate beach erosion throughout the state of North Carolina at this point in time. They, of course, have damage formulas that determine this. The FEMA representatives that we have spoke to indicated they have not been assigned any project damage assessments for all of North Carolina. Our engineers, though, have completed the post-Ian beach survey, and they are currently reviewing the volume loss calculations post-Ian. Should FEMA decide to extend the emergency protective measures for Cat G, then we'll be able to submit any beach restoration deemed necessary. But at this point in time, I just do not see that as forthcoming.
Was there any specific area of the beach that suffered more erosion than others?
That's, they're currently reviewing that.
Okay.
All of the, as far as where the sand moved, the loss, the volumes of loss, and I expect them to report back if
Okay.
not
Yeah.
touching on it. Fran touching on it later today.
Right, that's
At the
kind of
next
a
meeting.
question for Fran.
Okay, thank you.
Another piece of information that we received was I submitted to the board in my report last week. We received a letter from the U.S. Department of Interior Fish and Wildlife Service to announce the findings of their 5-year review of the boundaries for Cobra. Input is being requested during the 30-day review period that ends December 22nd. So I would just ask again, if you have any specific comments to provide, to please get to me this week, and I'll compile everyone's responses. If there's additional discussion on that, I would open that up to the board now.
I just would like all of the board members to know that those folks that are impacted by this potential map change, they've gone through hoops to have themselves rezoned from Cobra to federal flood. So anything that we can do as a board to be supportive of that area, I believe we should.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
there are two different things going on here, Mayor. One is technical correction to the map unit LO6 in Barton Bay, and that is ongoing and proceeding as scheduled through Congress, congressional review committees. But the thing that I wanted to address, and Alderman Leonard and I have already kind of talked about this as a sidebar, rather than each of the board members giving their own individual comments to the manager to collate, we would like to develop a comment statement that kind of approaches the COBRA issue from the new tactics that we have been using in 2022 that involve, what has happened in terms of COBRA and development in COBRA versus non-COBRA areas, yada, 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 but lay the whole thing out again. And the reason we need to do this is because, and I'll turn it over to Alderman Leonard to follow on this, but Congressman Murphy has already made a comment, and that information came to Alderman Leonard in an email, so Tom, why don't you go ahead and finish?
Okay. Actually, what happened was Ray Celeste, who is a legislative assistant for Congressman Murphy and a close friend, called me about a week and a half or so ago, and he was asking for my email address to be able to send me all this stuff. Digging into the Federal Register, the 5-year Fish and Wildlife survey or update is specifically tailored to any changes in the map areas that are a result of natural forces, specifically things like erosion, either accretion or erosion. So that's what this is really all about. They're using it as a segue, I think, we saw the letter. What he wanted to do was send me the letter so I could get it to the manager, the mayor, and the board. But to start the ball rolling for next session to try to get some COBRA action for the town. And so he and I have been talking, and Mike and I have also been talking, and we're going to sit down and put something together and make sure that everybody's happy with it. But the real purpose of this was just to do the five-year update. That really wasn't to do what we're trying to do with it, but at the same time, since the congressman's staff is working on it and wants to go that route, I think especially with the majority change in the House, it's a good time to do this.
Tom, okay, could I ask you, Tom, would this COBRA change that Congressman Murphy is working on, would that be for the entire town limits or just
Yes.
the Barton Bay section?
No, all the COBRA areas. Barton Bay is awaiting, as I understand it, and Mike can verify this because just got back on the board. Barton Bay is awaiting final approval.
Yes.
My understanding. What we're talking about here is the remainder of the town's areas that are in the coastal barrier resources system, which is all the areas in phase 1 minus the far north end. Phase 2,
A lot of it.
3, and 4. And it does a whole bunch of things, as we all know. Ideally, or very quickly, the first thing is can't qualify for federal flood. Second thing is a veteran can't use his VA eligibility for a home loan in a COBRA zone. And the third thing, of course, is restoration of beaches after named storms. So it's big if we can get the town out of this.
And so what our approach will be, we're going to need some help from the town manager Durian in terms of getting some statistics on developed versus undeveloped parcels in the COBRA versus the non-COBRA areas of town, as well as the number of acres in Con D in COBRA versus the total number of acres in the COBRA zone. So that we can use these statistics to show that Congress really didn't intend to put North Topsail Beach, because it wasn't North Topsail Beach, you realize, when the COBRA zone map unit, LO6, was established by Congress. North Topsail Beach didn't exist, it was just Onslow County.
Mike, just one quick question. When we looked at this some time ago, there was the idea of us swapping land.
Yeah,
Is that still the plan, or are we just saying, get us out of
the
COBRA?
land swap, that was a approach for a couple of years back around Florence, and we haven't carried that forward. That's not
So
that's not going to.
this is just gonna be a clean shot.
Right.
Okay.
We're not really working with Fish and Wildlife, even though they're in charge of the map units. We really have to get Congress to realize that they made a mistake in 1983 when they established map unit LO6. And this Congress, we're going to try to convince to correct the mistake that Congress made back in the beginning.
Just as a quick follow-up, in previous trips up to Washington to talk to Fish and Wildlife, the mapping section, which consists of about 3 people, has admitted that the maps are wrong. But they have also said, we can't change them until we're directed to change them by Congress. And if you go to the link that was in the Federal Register and read what Fish and Wildlife can and cannot change in terms of maps, at their level, it's very specific.
Okay,
And
I
they're
think we can
correct, and we can.
Move on.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Aaron, did you want to add anything else to your?
To my report, yes.
Okay.
One more on the beachfront in regards to the EIS. We did have a meeting with the mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and myself with the Army Corps of Engineers to review the EIS schedule a couple weeks ago and to keep tracking the progress as far as that goes, along with our engineer, Fran Way, and also Steve Dow from Dow and Cordy was present on the call as well this time. They're working right now at this point to, Fran is working on reviewing the modeling that was submitted by CPE, which he expects to take 3 weeks for that review. Dow Cordy is working on preparing Chapter 4 to get to Mickey Suggs with the Army Corps of Engineers, with the intent that the Army Corps of Engineers should be able to issue a notice of intent before the end of January. And that's what the goal is right now that we're pushing them for, and we also have another meeting scheduled this month to make sure everyone's tracking to hopefully make that deadline.
So I just want to state that Alice has been very tactfully and carefully trying to pull target dates out of the Corps. From a frustration level on my part is we don't have an actual project plan from them that they're living up to. So this has been dates that we've had to push to establish, not dates that have been provided to us in any type of onward-looking way. So I still have serious reservations about that whole, but I know we all do. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. The other things that I have in my report is just some announcements. We did hold our first annual Christmas tree lighting at Town Hall on November 16th, which was well attended. I just would like to say again, thank you to the Surf City Girl Scouts troop for helping out, serving hot chocolate and goodies, as well as the Karen Beasley Sea Turtle Rescue and Rehab Center and the staff who helped decorate for the event. It was not only our first tree lighting, but our inaugural flight for the recently acquired drone for the police department that I just spoke of. So thank you, Sergeant Pulowski, for providing the drone footage of this monumental occasion. That was posted and well received on our website and social media as well. We also have, in regards to the holidays, a special mailbox at Town Hall in the lobby for letters to Santa. Any letters received up to December 14th will be answered to those who include a name and address. So that's available outside here at Town Hall lobby. We're also getting ready to announce today North Topsail Beach grinding of the greens. I've coordinated with a contractor to grind natural ornament-free Christmas trees after Christmas. North Topsail Beach residents can drop off their undecorated trees to the designated area, which will be at Public Works this year. Between December 26th and January 11th, the actual grinding of the greens the contractor will be doing on January 12th. Following that date, free mulch will be available on a first-come, first-served basis to any residents that would like free mulch. Last but not least, a meeting announcement will be going out noticing a workshop for the Board of Aldermen for Friday, December 16th at 9 a.m. Agenda items to date include committee assignments and organizational goals for 2023. That concludes my report.
Can I just ask one question?
Yes,
Real
sir.
quick. Would you, not for this meeting, but for the January meeting, would you give us an update on where we are on collections and financial stuff, so we get an idea, 6 months into the year, what the rest of the year looks like, so that we've got, in terms of collections and things like that? I think that'll help us going forward, if you could, for the next meeting.
All, the property taxes are due by January 5th, so it might make more sense to do that maybe at the February meeting to allow them to come in.
You could, but I was looking more at rental income and things like that. I mean, the property taxes will generally be pretty close, but
Okay.
I know that we've got other collections coming in, we've had other issues, and I just think it'd be nice to have that forecast for us.
No
But you're
worries.
right.
Okay. And, Ms. Avery, do we have anybody signed up for the open forum? Is there anybody that would like to speak? Nope. All right, then we're gonna move on. We have public presentations and hearings, so we have the oath of office for Ms. Avery, and who is,
Carrie?
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just open the hearing first.
Let me just go over some preliminary guidance, if I would. Mayor, this is a special use permit hearing, which is a quasi judicial hearing in nature. We'll conduct it somewhat like a court would. We'll follow the North Carolina rules of evidence, not as strict as we would in court, but the purpose of this hearing is to ensure that the applicant has a fair and impartial decision-making body. And we're also going to conduct it in a manner to ensure their due process rights. So all witnesses who wish to provide testimony must first be sworn, and they will be subject to cross-examination. I need to ask the board as a whole a few questions to make sure you're fair and impartial. So, has anyone made a site visit to this property, which I believe is
Bermuda Landing.
for Bermuda Landing? Thank you. For the purposes of assessing this special use permit application.
No, sir.
All right, and all of these questions are that limited in scope for the purpose of this hearing. Has anyone had any conversations with the applicant, Ms. Laura Murphy, or anyone on her behalf about the subject matter of this application? Yes, sir.
No.
Okay, Mr. Grant, would you?
I received an email from Laura Olszewski, and I can read it to you, and I forwarded this on to the town. I wanted to touch base with you as I will be out of town with Laura Murphy's project is reviewed. Copied on this email are Sandy Dew and Anthony Reinhardt, also members of the Bermuda Landing Board. We wanted to reach out and let you know that the
Mr.
Bermuda-
Grant, I'm sorry. Let me see that first, because if that's hearsay,
I'm just telling what she reached out. I can send that to you, I guess.
She reached out in support of
In
the
support of the thing.
okay.
project.
All
All right.
she's saying is, on behalf of the board
Because she
of
couldn't-
Bermuda
Fair enough.
Landing.
If it was in opposition, that's a different
No,
ballgame.
no, this is in support of it.
Ms. Murphy, I assume you have no objections to hearsay in support of this application coming in?
It
Okay.
is. Do you
All
want me
right.
to finish, do you want me to finish reading it for you? It basically says,
If she's okay with it, you don't,
right, okay, it just says, let them know her community neighborhood is in favor of them approving.
right.
If you wouldn't mind, please forward me a copy for my records, please.
Sure.
Well, it's not in evidence yet, but thank you, Alderman Grant. Just to get it on the record, as the applicant, Ms. Murphy, you don't have any objections to Mr. Grant sitting through, on this hearing? Okay. Has anyone, does anyone on the board have a financial interest in the subject matter of this application?
No?
Okay. Does anyone on the board have a close personal relationship, family relationship, or business relationship with the applicant?
No.
Okay. All right. As I said, all witnesses must come forth and be sworn in. The applicant has the burden of proof under North Carolina law and under our code of ordinances if the applicant meets the criteria that can be found on page 38 of our board packet, which comes from section 2-20, subsection C, subsection 5 of our code of ordinances. And that evidence is not controverted, then it's the board's duty to issue the special permit. However, you can append certain reasonable conditions related to the various criteria. I understand from Ms. Hill that the planning board looked at this, and my review of the agenda packet shows that staff may have some suggested conditions. Is that correct, Ms. Hill?
There are conditions that were included in the planning board's motion.
Okay. Under North Carolina, Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General Statutes, this board cannot base its decision solely on what the planning board's recommendation is. That can come into evidence. Unless there's any questions, I suggest we proceed as follows. We first allow Ms. Hill to introduce the item, then she's subject to any cross-examination, and then to questions from the board. We then hear from the applicant and her witnesses, if any. Same process, cross-examination, questions from the board, and then any third party with standing we'd hear from, either in support or in opposition of this application. So unless there's any questions, I recommend we open the evidentiary portion of this hearing, Madam Mayor, and hear from Ms. Hill on behalf of staff.
So do I have a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mr. Grant and a second from Mr. Fontana, and all in favor?
All right.
Okay.
I watch Perry Mason.
Well, I'll do it since you're going to be testifying too, Deb. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth?
There you go.
He doesn't watch Perry Mason. Raise your hand.
Raise it like that. Okay.
Under penalty of perjury, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is case, special use permit number 2202. The planning board reviewed the special use permit application at their meeting on October the 13th, and again on, continued on November the 2nd of 2022. Amendments to the initial application were submitted on November the 7th. Did I say 20? Amendments to the application, to the initial application were a updated preliminary plot plan, which is included as Exhibit 11, dated November the 2nd, as well as a letter from Bermuda Landing Homeowners Association, letter of acceptance dated October the 25th, as Exhibit 12, and a response from Rob Myers, the Division of Coastal Management, CAMA LPO Minor Permits Coordinator, dated November the 10th and included as Exhibit 13. And staff requests that the staff report in its entirety be included as Exhibit 1.
Any objections from Ms. Murphy?
No.
We'll receive, and that's pages 5 through, help me, Deb.
Okay, I don't know how it's listed in your board package. In the staff report, it's submitted as, it's Exhibit 1 as the staff report.
You don't have to go through all that.
Okay.
I think it's page 5 through 41 at least.
Page 5 is the list of exhibits.
Page 6 is the list of exhibits. You looking in the bottom right-hand corner? Okay, mine are paginated differently. Is this the first page you guys have? 5 through 41?
That's
Yeah.
you have that, you just
Okay.
showed the cover sheet.
5 through 41 as marked with page numbers, Alderman Leonard, down in the right-hand corner. Will be received into evidence as Exhibit 1 without objection. Ms. Hill?
The application for Fort Bermuda Landing is submitted by Ms. Laura Murphy. Per the engineered plans, Murphy renovation number 4 Bermuda Landing by Chris Holmes, dated 4/14/2022, which includes removing existing rear 16 by 7.5 foot deck, construct a 16 by 7.5 foot den addition on the first habitable level, new deck on the second habitable level, and new ground floor enclosure. The Bermuda Landing is zoned R5. It's post-firm, being constructed in 1989. The townhouse unit is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhouse, currently 1,056 heated square feet. It's surrounded by the other townhouses in Bermuda Landing, as well as a single-wide mobile home and single family. The entire lot size is 1,612 square feet. For the planning board's recommendation is to approve with the following conditions: not to exceed the current impervious surface, and also not to encroach into the 10-foot easement. The revised plat submitted by Mr. John Pierce had included a staircase that went into the easement, and so we're requesting that it be that the stairs be reconfigured not to encroach into that 10-foot easement. The compatibility with the comprehensive plan, the request is the property is considered legal non-conforming, and redevelopment is consistent with 15A NCAC 07H.0209 of the Coastal Shorelines, Paragraph D, Subparagraph 2, per Division of Coastal Management, and Rob Mears' email response included as Exhibit 13, which he also states that the development will require a CAMA minor permit. The Bermuda Landing plat the final plat was approved March 17th of 1988. And just a point of clarification, typically on minor permits, prior to the adoption of 160D, applications such as this would have been handled administratively by staff. But with the with the passage of 160D and with 160D being incorporated into the town's Unified Development Ordinance, staff does not have administrative authority to approve permits that were part of a development that previously received local government approval. And in this case, it was Onslow County back in 1988 for the townhouse development. So to make it clear that, prior to, I think, July 1st of last year, there would have been permits, and I'm confident that there were permits that were issued for decks, stairs, et cetera, that we would not have been able to have issued administratively today without Planning Board and Board of Aldermen approval. So this is the first case that's coming before you. It's a little bit of a nuance. As so for the response to standards, section 2.20 special use permits, the use or development is located, designed, and proposed to be operated so as to maintain or promote public health, safety, and general welfare. And any additions in or improvement to post-firm structures, when the addition in or improvements in combination with any other interior modifications to the existing structure are not substantial improvement, the addition or improvements must only comply with the standards for new construction consistent with the code and requirements from the original structure. So that's from the flood regulations, and it's a point that whenever they turn in their final plans and part of the application review, that we ensure that that's the case. It'll also require that they have an elevation certificate that's based on construction drawings for the addition and not a pre-existing elevation certificate. That's all part of the application process, but it's separate and apart from the special use permit, but it's to address the public health, safety, and general welfare. As I stated, the properties in the structure are legal non-conforming. As it was zoned R5, it doesn't meet the minimum dimensional requirements for R5 zoning district. However, it was approved by Onslow County back in 1988. It exceeds the impervious surface limit, which I think is 77.8%. With the property being in the ORW, Division of Coastal Management limits the impervious surface area to 25%. However, as I previously stated, Division of Coastal Management considers it legal nonconforming, and the redevelopment is consistent with North Carolina Admin Code as previously cited. The use or development complies with all required regulations and standards of this ordinance and with all other applicable regulations. Traffic and parking, which aren't indicated on the plat, would require 3 parking spaces. There's possibly 2 in the driveway and 1 in the garage. The stair landing indicated on the revised site plan encroaches into the 10-foot easement where Planning Board and staff are requesting that that be a condition of approval. Indicate that the entire lot is within the special flood hazard area, special flood hazard area on the site plan. It wasn't indicated on the revised plan submitted by Mr. Pierce, but it is a requirement for it to be submitted on the plat as part of the application submittal. And that's separate and apart from our request or from the review for the special use permit. The use or redevelopment conforms to the plans for the land use and development of the town as embodied in the zoning ordinance and in the town's CAMA land use plan. As previously stated, it's considered legal non-conforming, and redevelopment is consistent with 15A NCAC 078.0209 of the coastal shorelines, paragraph D, subparagraph 2, as indicated in Exhibit 13. The list of exhibits are included on the red page 5 of the staff report. Do you want me to include all those, or can I just cite that?
They're already in the packet.
Okay, excellent. So, if anyone has it, also in the package, I stipulated as to the notice, mailing the notice to the adjoining property owners, as well as posting it on the message board out front and on the town's website. The property was also posted. It is not a requirement to advertise in the newspaper for a public hearing for quasi judicial. So, and any questions for me?
I do, Madam Mayor, if the board doesn't. I just want to make sure I've captured all the conditions that both staff and the planning board recommended. The planning board had two, one to not exceed existing impervious percentage, and the second one is not to encroach into 10-foot easement. Is that right, Ms.
Yes,
Hill?
sir, that's correct.
And I believe that in your staff report, you had some additional, one pertaining to providing a elevation certificate. That's on,
Yes, sir, that's part of the application process for any zoning application for an enclosure. But certainly if you wanted to include that as, or propose that as one of the board's conditions, I'm fine with that. The other one would be that the property was listed as being in the special flood hazard area on the plat submitted as part of the application, but that's up to you.
you're saying they would be called in the subsequent application process if the SUP is granted?
That's correct.
Okay.
The zoning, and I've explained this to the applicant and to her contractor, that this is just for the special use permit, for the Board of Aldermen's review of the special use permit, but we need to make sure that their application is incomplete, and I'll be working with the applicant to ensure that they have their CAMA minor permit as well as a complete application for review and approval for a zoning and floodplain permit per the regulations.
And so that would include the two items, the elevation certificate and the revised plat to indicate SFHA?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Staff's reviewed the SUP application as compared to the criteria required.
Yes, sir.
Does staff conclude that that criteria has been met
Yes, sir.
with the conditions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Hill?
No.
Well, we're going to we're going to discuss that. I'm going to make a recommendation regarding something in addition to the planning board, if the board's inclined to vote in favor of it. Thank you, Ms. Hill. Madam Mayor, as indicated when we started out, under North Carolina law and our code of ordinances, if there is evidence that the criteria has been met, the ordinance reads, the SUP shall be issued. We can continue to hear from the applicant if you'd like, but unless there's someone here signed up in opposition to this, it would appear to me that Ms. Hill's testimony in and of itself satisfies a prima facie case that the criteria has been met, and we could close the evidentiary hearing and discuss it. But yeah, I don't want to foreclose your opportunity to talk, but what I'm saying is staff itself says you met the criteria. Okay.
Okay, and I will add, just as a reminder, and I'm sure that you know, but just for the sake of the folks in the audience, that also with 160D, that any conditions that the Board of Aldermen may impose as for approval for the special use permit, that I've drafted something that we can edit and finesse, whatever. But the owner has to agree to in writing before those conditions are enforceable and before that special use permit is considered valid.
Right.
Once approved by presume that it's approved by the.
Sure, and if she, well, I don't want to get into a legal
Right.
debate, but if she doesn't agree with, the applicant doesn't agree with them, then it's not a valid SUP.
Then it's null and
to begin
void.
with.
Right.
Well, to that end, Ms. Murphy, do you mind coming up, please, as the applicant? Are you aware that the planning board suggested the condition that if approved, the modification not exceed the existing impervious surface?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any objections to that condition?
No, sir.
So you accept that condition?
I do.
Are you aware that the planning board also had the condition that the This modification would not encroach into the 10-foot easement.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're aware that a subsequent application is going to require an elevation certificate?
Yes, and we have done that.
Okay. A CAMA minor permit?
That's in the works.
Okay. And a, I just lost it, 1 second.
Drafting a new staircase.
Revised plat to indicate the special flood hazard area? Or not?
Oh, yes, that to be added to the plat by
Right.
my surveyor, John Pierce.
And so you have no objections to any of those?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Murphy.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Is there anyone signed up that's been sworn in or out there that wants to speak in opposition to this application?
I think, sir, the only thing that you didn't state was making sure the stairway is modified, I believe, to not encroach.
That was the second condition
Oh,
about
did you say that? I
not to
didn't hear you.
encroach in the 10-foot.
Okay.
I called it a modification,
Sorry.
but it's a
Okay.
stairway. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah, these things just involve engineers and surveyors, and it's December, but we're working on them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, let the minutes reflect, please, that no one in the audience indicated they wanted to speak in opposition to this application. Madam Mayor, at this point, I believe it would be appropriate to close the evidentiary portion of the hearing. And
So moved.
Okay, and do I have a second? Second. Okay, so the motion was made by Alderman
Leonard.
Leonard and seconded by,
Alderman Plottle.
Alderman Clark.
As town attorney, I feel compelled to advise you that all of the evidence produced indicated that the criteria has been met and the applicant has agreed to the 5 conditions, if you will. 2 of the conditions are really part of a subsequent application, but since the applicant has agreed to them, I don't see any harm in appending that to an approval. But under North Carolina law, if the criteria has been met, it's your duty to issue the special use permit. I recommend a motion to approve with the 5 conditions added to the approval.
So do I have a motion to approve the special use permit?
Motion to approve
Do I have a second?
With the 5 conditions?
with the 5 conditions.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay.
Thank you. Staff and I will draft up an order and get that executed.
Oh, no, you gotta stay for the whole meeting. And since your phone went off, you have to buy lunch for the board.
Thank you. The next item is an update from Mr. Franway, our coastal engineer. Do we have him, Ricky, on the line? Hey, Fran, can you hear us? There you are.
Yes, I can.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to you for your update.
Okay. My name is Fran Way. I'm a coastal engineer with Applied Technology Management, and I've been working with the town since about 2018. And we have, that's 11 miles of shoreline, and we have the town has several projects. I'm going to share my screen. That's not it. Sorry. Is the PowerPoint up?
Not yet.
No.
Okay. Sorry. I'm not sure what's going on here. Let's see. Okay, so, sorry, the screen is up now?
Yes.
Okay. This is the December 2022 update. Here's just an overview of the North Topsail Beach shoreline of New River Inlet, and you have phase 1, and then phase 2 through 3, 4, 5, and 5 is down near the Surf City town limit. Each phase, as the aldermen were discussing, as Alderman Leonard was discussing, there are different erosion rates, different shorelines, different cobra sections. The phase 1 and phase 5, as mentioned, and there's a little small section in phase 2, are the non-cobra areas, and that is, we do have a little more flexibility, a lot more flexibility in what we can do, and federal reimbursement. As everyone recalls, after Florence, the FEMA did allow the FEMA dune reconstruction in phases 2, 3, and 4, and phase 1, but it's highly restrictive, and getting rid of those I'm all for it. Phase 1, we still have it's a 15 to 16,000 cubic yards of material. That is FEMA mitigation for Hurricane Dorian. We did have a permit. The permit allows us to place up to 45,000 cubic yards of material. And this is a truck haul material. It's nice sand, nice color, nice everything. The phase 5 category G, FEMA category G project is ongoing right now. They've placed 20,000 cubic yards of material. They're going to continue placing here for the rest for December, January, February, March, and April. And we're just going to continue with that. Dune revegetation was completed this summer. We're kind of monitoring, and Hurricane Ian did do some damage. We'll kind of look for that. For the phase 4 shoreline, that is the state grant, and that will be another truck haul. And that is, I'm working with the town. We're working on the state grant, all the kind of the contracting and everything like that. And the permitting is ongoing. This is a beach nourishment project, so not only do we need CAMA, Department of Coastal Management permit, we also need the Army Corps of Engineers permit for that one. Here's the spot up on phase 1. As you can see, this is in an area that is outside of the Cobra zone. And then you see down here, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Coastal Barrier Resources Act unit. That's kind of basically the line is just to the south of the Topsail Reef Villas. And so most of this material is, we do have it in, and then also you have the inlet hazard area up near the New River Inlet. That's a state thing. That's not Fish and Wildlife, but the state does have some. It's additionally there's some restrictions there in the inlet hazard area that kind of limit your options. But you can still place material in there.
Can I ask him just one quick question? Before you leave that slide,
Yes.
All right, that's our nourishment project. You've got the Army Corps dredging project that's going to be putting sand, that's the reef right there, right? So you're gonna be putting sand there. How are we coordinating between those two projects? Are we gonna wait until they get done? Because they're pretty quick with what they're gonna be done, right? So I'm assuming that's gonna get done first, so we're not like making a mess before they come in?
Correct. And this is kind of a permanent footprint, but we basically, for the permitting, we have even the agencies realize that the beaches change, and we have, we have an impact, the footprint and kind of the amount of the volume. And then obviously when we have to, when we want to go out and do this, we will do kind of a pre-project survey and update our fill template and everything. And then we will have to, and the CAMA and the Corps will have to review it. But I mean, that's pretty much standard operating procedure, where you basically design it and permit it under existing conditions, realizing that when the project actually happens, you are going to have to make some changes to the footprint itself.
Okay.
So Fran, just to follow on, this is Mike. You permitted 45,000. So the yellow highlighted area, is that 45,000 cubic yards or is that 16,000 cubic yards? So my question is it just going to be, if we had 45,000 cubic yards from somewhere, would it go right on top of that yellow footprint?
Yes, you're correct. That yellow footprint is the 45,000 cubic yard project. A lot of times it's a good idea to permit more, and then you can reduce your scope easily versus expanding your scope, you run into trouble.
Okay.
So, yes, that's the 45,000.
All right, thank you.
And then here's the Florence and Dorian nourishment phase 5. It has begun. It's working. They're working on the Gray Street access, and they're working north. They're going to continue working north. We're hoping they can finish the section, the northern section, by February. And then in February they'll start pretty much at Gray Street and start working towards the Surf City town limit. And this is also the beach nourishment. This is putting material about 100 feet of beach that can be used over the for recreational purposes. And it also helps out the dune project. The dune was redone here just a few years ago, but having this beach, additional beach out here, is really helpful in protecting that dune actually. So. And then here's the state grant area of the project with phase 4, and this will be very similar to what we're doing in the phase 5 shoreline. It's going to be beach, not dune, and it's 80 to 100 feet of beach, and it's basically as soon as you get onto the island, it's that area just starting at getting onto the island going south, and it's about 2.5 miles. And it's 465,000 cubic yards. So that's actually, it's a good amount of material. The phase 5 project, we're putting, up 600,000 cubic yards. So the phase 5 reach. The reaches are not all the exact same length. They're broken up for different reasons, but it's about the same. Here's the county beach access, Onslow County Beach Access 4. We do have the permit for this. We do have the post-Ian survey, because the county did kind of manipulate the dune a little bit, push some of that sand back into the dune. It does actually sound, in this image I have 2,300 cubic yards of sand. It's actually going to be 2,700 cubic yards of sand. And it will place material, it really just plug this gap and put material under the structure on the beach house structure, and then kind of help out the dunes just in that immediate area. And so it's about 600 feet of shoreline total. We want this project to happen as soon as possible, and I've been working with Alice on just getting this together. So we do have the permits in place, but CAMA is kind of reviewing the post-Ian dune system and basically current conditions. But this should happen here, probably in January. The core dredging, and Alice is, a lot of times the core dredging is still happening. Alice has been filling me in on some of the coordination between the town and the homeowners up on the north end, and the Army Corps of Engineers and the dredger. And it sounds like they're just going back to basically the standard projects, no changes, just what they've been doing for the last 20, 30 years. And it's just the kind of overview of that, of the phase 5 beach nourishment. ST Wooten is the contractor, and they're hauling and working north. They're from the Gray Street access. We did break up the phase 5 nourishment, so it's about 300,000 cubic yards in one and 300,000 in the next, but just a approximately the next tranche, the second tranche of that Phase 5 project will happen here in February. Dorian, as we've just discussed, there's the 15,000 cubic yards of material is FEMA reimbursable, but there can be some more material placed. The Army Corps of Engineers project with the navigation for the AIWW and the Jacksonville Channel, any kind of beach compatible material is going to get placed on Phase 1 shoreline. The new river management plan, as Alice discussed, the additional modeling is being reviewed right now. We're working with the Army Corps of Engineers and Title 40. Continue working with North Topsail Beach Finance Officer and DEC Associates regarding, just funding and long-term, the projects this winter and the following winter, the state grant related versus, and also the FEMA stuff. Permitting coordination, the county beach access, state grant, and then the Alderman did mention, the board mentioned that, did talk with Alice, and Alice, the hurricane post-Ian analysis shows the entire beach wide, and I was going to refine this, and I'm looking at it more, but it does look like about 190,000 cubic yards of material was lost from Hurricane Ian. And actually, we do analysis from, from the dune out to the quote-unquote depth of closure, which is about 18 feet of water. So that's, about a quarter mile out. It's in deep water, but that's basically kind of where the sand moves along the shoreline, but it doesn't really move. It generally doesn't move out, into deep water. It stays along the shoreline. So that 190,000 is measuring from the dune out to 18 feet of water, about a quarter mile offshore. The beaches themselves, they lost less. They only lost about 20,000 cubic yards per reach, per phase. But when you do look out to the total depth that FEMA always wants us to do, requires us to do, Phase 4 lost the worst. Phase 4 did they lost about half of that material, 86,000 cubic yards. So, and it's weird because, basically looking at the photos and everything, it did look like the Phase 1, Phase 2 maybe got hit a little worse. But when we look out to the depth of closure, Phase 1, Phase 2, they lost about 20,000, 30,000 cubic yards. Phase 3 lost about 52,000 cubic yards. Phase 4 lost the most, about half of the total. And then Phase 5 lost nothing. It came out zero. So obviously some of that material that got lost on the upper beach just went into the near shore, where you have sandbars and things like that. And the sandbars don't keep moving offshore. The sandbars kind of stay in that depth, and they are helpful. Sandbars are a great thing to kind of reduce wave activity. So, and that's the presentation.
So Fran, just to follow up on that, I was under the impression that the Ian survey just was from the Seaview Pier North, but you've surveyed the whole 11 miles of North Topsail Beach shoreline, correct? And giving us these loss figures.
Correct. There was, since it was post-Ian, and then we could double, and basically Phase 5, we needed to do that anyway as pre-project for the FEMA project. And then, yes, and we went with the entire beach, and then based on kind of the dune losses and the flooding along the shoreline, along the island, we decided to do the entire beach.
Thank you, Fran. Does anybody else have questions for Fran?
Fran, just for future point of reference and for our beach committee discussions in the future, can you send us those loss numbers by phase, onshore, near shore, offshore, like you just went through? So we don't have to go back and listen to the tape and transcribe them.
Yep. Yeah, I will send them to Alice, and then she can pass them along.
Thank you, Fran. I appreciate your time today.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
The next item is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Leonard and Mayor Pro Tem Benson. Then the next item would be
We
continuing.
got to vote on it.
Oh, I'm
Well,
sorry.
can we
All in
add-
favor?
Before you approve it, that, can we just add one item on there?
On the consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
And it's to the town manager's report earlier. The item would be to authorize the town manager to execute the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality Financial Assistance Agreement. And that's in accordance with last month's resolution that we take all action the state requires.
Okay.
So moved.
Make the motion with the addition.
Thank you.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. All right, we're going to move on to continuing business, and we've got an update on the BISAC committee from Mayor Pro Tem Benson.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. You have this morning our report from our BISAC committee meeting yesterday. This report is less than 24 hours old. There are two items I need to bring your attention to in our report. The first is committee membership. We had a resignation from the BISAC committee from a representative from Phase 2 area. We, over the course of several weeks, have asked for citizens in town to make application to serve on the BISAC committee. And so at our December 6th meeting yesterday, we went through the applicants that came in recently as well as the applicants that had applied previously when this committee was first formed back in December, January of 2021-22. And the long and short of our discussions of the potential applicants, we would recommend to the board that you appoint Mrs. Terry Ward as an at-large member to BISAC. The reason it's an at-large appointment is we found no suitable applicant from either Phase 3 or Phase 2 where the previous vacancies had occurred. So that is an action item. I don't know if you want to act on it now or
Yeah,
if I
let's-
should go on.
No, let's do that now. So it sounds like you're requesting a motion to select Ms. Terry Ward to be an at-large member to the BISAC committee, right?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And then just briefly, in our report, you'll see that we are working on updating the charter that was used to found the BISAC committee, and we're going to come up with a set of guidelines. Alderman Grant is working on revising these guidelines, and we will discuss those at our January meeting, and then we will bring a recommendation to the board on establishing the guidelines for the committee for the future.
Can I comment on that real quick, Mike?
Go ahead.
All right, just real quick, and I apologize to the board. When we issued the charter, I should have spent more time looking at this charter. I did some research. None of the other towns have a charter. Okay, the Topsail Island Commissioner, Pipsky, does have a charter. None of our committees, none of our boards have charters. And so looking back and going back and turning this into guidelines for the committee, and also to give us a better, and I on your desk is a highlighted area for an example of what needs to come out of there. If you look at it, it's like one of the things that's in the charter is that they should be coordinating with Alice, that the committee's coordinating with Alice if we have a disaster, which is obviously an operational problem. So I'm going to do those. I would ask a little bit of direction from the board on two things. One is we're going to be talking about in this, do you want me to circulate a draft of this to you before we go back to the other commission? Okay, you know, for example, and I'm trying to think what the second thing was. Oh, the second thing, and more important is, I believe, and Mike believes, the committee needs to get direction from this board as to what we should have the committee looking at. Because right now, we've kind of got a shotgun approach to things, we're looking at everything. And I think that in terms of goals for the committee, it's going to be better for this board to come back and say, we want you to focus on A and B this year, rather than looking at everything. So I think Mike and I would just like some direction on you. I can circulate these guidelines for everybody to look at, and then if you would come back as to what you think those goals should be. The next BISAC meeting is not until after our January meeting, so we have time to move on those. Thanks.
Okay, so the only other thing is we discussed the situation with the inlet hazard area adoption by the Coastal Resources Commission. That activity was put on pause. We went through really a learning session for the committee to understand how these inlet hazard areas are determined by the science panel that the CRC appointed. And long and short of it, we were thinking we might make a new comment to the new inlet hazard area, which most of you know by now expands from 85 acres to 145 acres, including all of Topsail Reef, Dolphin Shores, and the St. Regis. But after going through the science with our coastal engineer advisor, Mr. Chris Gibson from TI Coastal, he explained to us that the science panel got it right back in 2019, and the area of influence by the New River Inlet, that hazard area influence is the correct designation in the 219 update. So we are not going to comment to DCM about their adoption of the 219 inlet hazard area.
Meaning that we're not going to ask this board to comment.
Exactly.
Anything
And
else?
the other thing was just to reiterate that the BISAC is going to have some goals that we're going to discuss internally, but we're also requesting the Board of Aldermen give us some direction for 2023. That's all.
Okay. The next item is the spring concert, and I really feel that we can postpone this discussion until we have our work session on the 16th to talk as a board about the spring concert and see, how we get this thing pulled together. So, so I'm okay pushing that unless anybody else wants to talk about it now. Then under new business, we've got our town manager, Miss Darian Auto Connect subcontract.
Yes. Included on the agenda for your consideration is two items. One is a subcontract for parking signage procurement. I don't need the board to approve this item. It's just more for transparency on, and just to provide some context, that we're ordering a total of 109 signs for the $10,500. The point of this is to make sure that the emergency access numbers that were assigned match the parking lot numbers, so there's no potential confusion down the road on if somebody were to call dispatch on what area they're in. So nothing further on that unless there's any questions. The second item is the contract amendment number 3, which will amend the parking agreement to eliminate the park by mail option at NTB 07, which is across from Rogers Bay, to be consistent with the remaining parking lots and allow the option of an annual parking permit for one vehicle to be purchased at a cost of $150. This was basically, right now we offer $250 for 2 vehicles, but the reason for this request is there was a demand for single permit options from residents.
Okay.
Do you want a motion on that?
I have a question.
I don't think we need, I do. Okay, go ahead. Well, let's do our motion and second before we have discussion.
Motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, open for discussion.
I just have a general question about the daily paid parking. and it came about because I'm seeing, it says NTB 07, for example. If I were to park there and pay for 8 hours of parking, and I'm out on the beach fishing, and I decide this isn't really the place I want to be fishing, do I still have 8 hours and I can park in another designated parking area?
Yeah,
I'm not restricted to the area where I first paid to park.
no.
Thank you.
It's a hourly commitment.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next item would be the fire protection interlogical agreement. Ms. Darian?
Okay, included on the packet is a copy of the interlocal agreement. It's for fire protection services. This is something we discussed during budget time. Onslow County approved during their budget process. This is not, I just want to walk through, I'm not going to read this agreement. I just want to point out some clarifications because I think it is confusing, especially when I give the context of the examples in here. So I just want to make it clear for everyone that this is not a new tax. It is a tax that's tax money being redirected by the county. So it's not an additional 3 cents. It's money they're already collecting that's being redirected. I anticipate that we will receive our first payment July 30th, 2023. So this will occur next fiscal year, at the beginning of next fiscal year. And if you follow through the examples on the ad valorem tax for the day shown is collected with the tax rate, they arbitrarily picked that number in there with the $30 million. That is not our number. Our number is more in the $10 million range. So we would look to acquire $471,000, which is vastly different than the example of $1.3 million. So I just want to make that clear to the board that those are the dollar figures. And if there's not any further questions, I would ask for a
Just real
motion.
quick, that was brought up by Tim Foster's the new chairman of the Onslow County Commission, and he brought up in his comments that the 3 cents was coming back for us to use as we wanted. Number one, the 471 is consistent because 3 cents times our tax base of close to 1.5 billion converts to what she's got in terms of that number, so that makes sense. And again, it is money that they are going to collect and then
Correct.
be redirected back to us, so it is completely separate than what the town has in our property taxes. So, and it has to be used for basically fire and fire services.
Fire services.
Okay, so
Equipment.
let's do our motions before we have additional
Well,
discussion.
just one thing, if I may add, Mayor, I'm going to request, and it's in all parties' best interest, that we add one sentence at the end, that by entering into the agreement, no party to the agreement is waiving their sovereign, governmental, or public official immunity. That's standard language. I can't imagine anybody would object to that.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the interlocal agreement for fire protection services with Onslow County with the change that Attorney Eads just requested?
I would like to make a motion that we approve that as you described with the change that he's got and give the town manager, with the assistance of the town attorney, the right to modify those terms as they seem necessary, consistent with what's been presented today.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, any additional discussion?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Go ahead.
Manager Durian, is Chief Sword able to accommodate the request as the agreement states? Is there any concern on the fire department's
No.
position to be able to provide this assistance?
I think you're referencing the next item, which is the
Right.
mutual aid agreement. This
Yeah,
is for
that's what
the,
I'm referencing.
Yeah, we're talking about the 3 cents.
Well, maybe I just messed up too then.
I'm assuming that the chief would be okay with having more money. Is
Yeah,
that fair,
I
chief?
think so. Can you accommodate that? That's okay. Sir, did you have something?
Yeah, I just had a question on you mentioned that the money would be reimbursed, Alice, in July of 2023. I'm assuming though this 3 cents is for this current fiscal year and not for next fiscal year? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any additional discussion?
It'll be reoccurring every fiscal year following.
Just
It's
for
a
clarification,
reoccurring-
when this was presented by the county at their budget meetings, the idea was to have what they considered a permanent fire allocation tax of the money that they are collecting. So this would be an ongoing thing that would come back to us. And Tim made that clear in his discussion Monday.
And again, it's not an additional tax, they're redirecting their funds.
So
Okay.
would we have to approve this annually, or is this just
Doesn't just come through.
one time?
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, the next one, Mayor
The
Pro
sec-
Tem, this is the one. This is the mutual aid.
The second one is in regarding an agreement for fire protection mutual aid with Onslow County. And yes, the fire chief has reviewed it, and comments received where it's basically the same as previous years.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Well,
So moved.
I may have messed up on which document, but to the extent it needs to be added, I'd like to add that same non-waiver of immunity.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any additional discussion?
We're really obligated to pass this since we're taking their money.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, and the last item on this page is the 2022-0009 American Flood Coalition, Mr. Benson?
Yeah, this came about through some meetings that I and others have attended. And Mr. Tony McEwen from the American Flood Coalition, who he represents North Carolina at least, spoke at the Water Summit that Representative Murphy and Representative Rouser organized back in a couple months ago. And then again, many of us here on this board attended the NC Byways meeting, and Tony spoke again about the American Flood Coalition and how this group works nationally to mitigate flooding and flooding issues. And we have been asked to join this coalition as a municipality. And if we did, we would be the last town on the island to join the coalition, since all the other two towns are already members of the coalition. So to me, it's kind of a non-brainer. You have a pamphlet there that gives you information in your board packet about this coalition, what they do, the groups that are a part of it. It's just not municipalities. There's lots of different groups.
Okay, so I'm going to request a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And the next item is the meeting schedule for 2023, and this is Alice. And I believe for the schedule, what we have right now is that they're the same as they are right now, right? The first Wednesday at 11.
This resolution, 2022-010, is just outlining the meeting schedule for 2023 Board of Aldermen meetings for the upcoming year. And it's basically follows the same schedule now, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Or first Wednesday of every month at 11 a.m., not every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday'd be okay if you're buying lunch.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve it as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion?
Yes. Alice, how do you think it went, having it at 11 versus having it in the evening? Was it better for staff and for the town?
I have not received any negative feedback from either side.
Okay, very good. I just wanted to check in on that to see if you'd heard anything from either citizens or staff.
And I was not present for many meetings when they were in the evening, but it seems like we get more attendance during the day. That's my personal observation.
Alright,
I was
thank you.
serious about the lunch comment, though.
Okay,
Of course you
we have a motion, we have a second. Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then we have, the next item would be an open forum. Do we have anybody signed up for that one? No? Anybody who'd like to speak? No? Okay. Then, we're gonna move on to the attorney's report.
No report.
All right, the mayor's report. Well, it's been a busy time right now as we all get ready to celebrate the holidays. I'm glad that you all were able to join us today and appreciate those who watch online. I also wanted to sincerely thank Mayor Medlin for his service over the last 30 years. He's a very nice person and he will be missed. Well, it was on Facebook, everybody knows? He did resign yesterday due to some health issues that he's going to be focused on. So we do appreciate his service. And that's all I have. So we'll go, Ms. Plettle.
All right. Thank you again for everyone who came out or who is watching from home. It's been a very busy year, and this is the last meeting of the year. I think that the town has worked very hard to move forward in a positive manner. We had a lot of tough decisions to make throughout the year, but I think that we persevered, and I think, again, we moved forward in a positive manner. I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas, good holidays, be safe.
Thank you. Alderman Leonard, this will be a short one.
It will. First, I'd like to wish everyone a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's. But I really want to focus on thanking the manager and staff for the tree lighting. It was, I've been here 20 years, first time, and it was really nice. Along with the others here, several others here, attended the NC Byway Fall Conference in November in Wilmington. Town had a really good turnout for that, including 2 of our BISAC members. We've already talked about Cobra and Ray Celeste from Murphy's office, so I won't belabor that point. Finally, last thing is I served as an escort at the November Regiment of Retired Marines Marine Corps birthday ball, and I escorted as the guest of honor our state senator, Michael Lazara, and our discussions with centered on what he could do to help the town. And as soon as we get done here, I am heading north to ultimately attend the Army-Navy game in Philadelphia on Saturday, where Navy is favored to win by less than 1 field goal. I don't know how you can win by less than a field goal, but go Navy. My dad's a class of 52, Naval Academy grad, and that concludes my report.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I will echo my fellow aldermen's wishes for the holidays. Thank the town manager for her efforts recently and lots of things that have been going on in the town. And hope that we can accomplish some good things in 2023 for the town as your board members. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fontana?
Yes, I just want to, again, thank the board for their support in choosing me to fill a vacancy. It's going to be hopefully a fairly quick learning curve, but I intend to get up to speed real quick. And to echo, wish everybody a very happy and safe holiday season.
Okay, quickly, attended the county board meeting on Monday. For those that don't know, Jack Bright resigned as chairman, ostensibly for health reasons. That's a loss for us. He's become an advocate for the town. The good news is that Tim Foster is now chairman of the Onslow County Board, and he is on our BISAC committee and a fan of us. I also ran into Phil Shepard at that and thanked him for the work that he's done for us in the town. Wanted to thank you and Alice and frankly the staff and stuff. The things that have been accomplished this year. When you look at all the beach work that's going on, all the things that have been done, it's incredible what's been done. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody, and thanks for showing up.
Okay, then the next item, can I have a motion to go into closed session?
What's the grounds?
It's for
I can read it.
NC General Statutes 143-318.11A3 to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged. That's it.
I would have read it, Mayor, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think you were testing me. So we have a motion? Did somebody make a motion? Rick did. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming today.